Blog. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Bryan. My story is that I'm a 12-time Ironman. The last Ironman I did was in 2014. I did make 3 world championships. Since 2014, I got fat, I got out of shape. Last year, I decided, A, to lose the weight. I was at 243 pounds. I lost close to 50 pounds. And now I'm on a journey to get back into shape. So I am on a 8-week journey. I just finished week number 6. And I decided to change the way I'm doing my vlog, maybe to make it more interesting. I'm not sure. Please leave comments and let me know what you think of the new format. But essentially what I've done is I recorded throughout the week. So think of this as time traveling, and you get to go through my journey of what I did in training this week. Mondays are off, and I train Tuesday to Sunday, and a little bit of commentary after each one. And feel free to take a look, and at the end of the week, I'll give you a little update in terms of how things went. Happy Tuesday. It's the first day back training since my Monday rest day. Today was a bike ride, and it was an hour and 15 minutes, which turned out to be an hour and 18, not to count the getting out of Balboa Island, coming into Balboa Island. I don't track that because I don't want it to wreck my average time. Today, you could tell by the energy, best bike ride I've had in years, and I mean 5 years or more. I averaged 27.3 kilometers an hour overall. The first out was 29.2 at the turnaround, new trail I went through. And then on the way back was against the wind. And it was kind of fun because I was playing around to say, okay, I gotta, keep up the time, go as hard as I can without the heart rate going over 130 beats per minute. And I kept thinking about this story of Dale Dirksen, who was a guy in Winnipeg that I used to train with, and he was an excellent cyclist, and he loved cycling into the wind. And the rest of us triathletes would go with him, and he didn't want to, he always wanted to be in the front, and we were fine. We didn't need to lead. And I asked him one time, Dale, how'd you get so good at riding in the wind? And he told me, he says, you know what, I never used to, but I kept telling myself that, the wind is your friend. Love the wind. I love the wind. I love the wind. He said after a couple of years, yeah, I really started to love the wind. So I did that. And I think it took 2 or 3 years, and now I love the wind. We call them prairie hills. It is Wednesday. I just finished my run. I did an hour run, just a little over an hour. Wow, man. Beginning a 6-week workout, number 2 of the week on Wednesday. Had the best run I've had since starting. I was under 7 minutes. So I even have a goal of getting down into the 6. I was like 6:53 or 6:46. Didn't stop. Here's the thing, when you run constantly through, it's a whole different type of running mindset wise than when you run, walk, run, walk, run, walk. So it felt great. On my run, there's certain things I think of, you'll see things and you go, hey, that's funny. So, I see people, this one woman was pushing her dog in a baby carriage. And I was thinking, you know what would that dog's grandfather think of him being pushed in a baby carriage? And then I thought, you know what? You look at kids today versus his granddad dog, and I looked at my granddad dog. Back then, if you looked at those kids, they were climbing, like the jungle gyms were 3 stories high. And even then, I remember when I was a kid, and maybe we were the last of the Mohicans, but we would have these ropes that go right up to the top of the gymnasium room that we'd be climbing. And of course, there'd be a little mat at the bottom. So if you fell down, nowadays I see the playgrounds, they have like foam on them. So if the kids fall off of anything, which is not high, they land on the foam. Anyway, I thought that was funny that, looking at the grand dog. The other thing is I was looking down at my shorts. I'll show a picture of them. I need to get them washed, man. They're ready to stand up by themselves. And because I'm running all the time or working out, I have a lot of mucus. And I guess that's just my system being cleaned out. So I'm putting the mucus on my shorts. It's a little bit gross. Anyway, good workout. Happy with the way it went. Tuesday over. And what goes up must come down. So I feel great today. Who knows what tomorrow will bring. It is Thursday, just finished a bike ride. As you can see from my lips and my voice, it's not in sync. It turned out that for whatever reason, the sound wasn't working on this video, so this is me dubbing it in. Not a lot to report other than had a solid ride today. I'm feeling pretty good, and that it was a nice one in that I got my power meter set up, the 4II, the one I bought off of Facebook that ended up not working, and they sent me a brand new one. So I had that put on at a store called The Cyclist. They did a great job. When I was there, a guy, Pablo, ended up giving me some routes, a route here in Orange County that I'm going to have to try before I leave. So overall, feeling a lot of good energy today. Friday run in the bag. Man, tomorrow's going to hurt. My legs felt like they were cramping in the thighs. Some people don't like that. I've always found that feeling, you get some growth. My Achilles, which was super sore yesterday, loosened up a little bit, but I had to run slow. It was a shuffle just to get through. I was a little worried if I could get through, so I made it through. Yeah, nice run on the beach, but I'm exhausted. I had to push myself to get out the door, so. I just finished my long ride. How did it go? Well, before I even get into how it went, last night I was just beat after that run. I think I told you my legs were just spent. And so I snoozed for about an hour and a half. We went for dinner. I had a couple of beers just to kind of carbo load up. And then we decided on the way back, you know what, why don't we get some ice cream? I was making that excuse to carbo load. And I wasn't really making an excuse. I really figured I needed it today because it was a 2.5 hour bike ride. So woke up this morning. I was supposed to go to a meetup group bike ride. I decided not to. It stepped out the door at like 6:45 and it was like 12 degrees Celsius. And I'm like, do I really want to drive half an hour to do an 8:30 or 7:30 start and then have to drive back and it's cold, at least, relatively cold. So I bailed on that. And then I get an email saying, oh, we're starting at 8 o'clock. And now I was on, do I go, don't I go? Decided not to. Instead, I was laid in bed and I was playing with my Element Bolt and trying to figure out how I could put courses from my Strava onto the Bolt, and didn't really figure it out, although I kind of did, because when I got out on the bike ride, I turned it on and it was giving me some guidance and it was beeping like crazy. I guess every so many meters it beeps. It was driving me nuts. So I had to stop on the ride, not too far in, maybe 10 minutes, and do the chat GPT. How do I turn this thing off? So chat told me and I turned it off, and then I continued on, and there was a choice I had to make. Do I go on one of those like Santa Ana trails where there's no traffic and it goes on forever? Or do I keep going down the PCH, Pacific Coast Highway? And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go right down the Pacific Coast Highway as far as it'll go, Long Beach, whatever will get me on my 2.5 hour drive. And I loved it. The traffic, I know it sounds crazy, traffic, there's lots going on. I enjoy it. I find when I go on these trails, it's come to me that it's kind of the equivalent of riding on a trainer. There's nothing to look at. It's, a gully, or they call it a river, but really it's just a storm shower sewer thing. So I kept going, get to Huntington Beach, stop at a red light because there's a lot of stoplights. And there's an older guy beside me, and I said, it's hi, and he says, boy, sure is windy today. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we're in the wind. Look at the flag over there. I look over there. Yeah, in fact, it is. And I'm thinking, wow, that's great. Because as I was riding, I didn't know where the wind was coming from. I never do. And I think I told you, I love the wind. I've convinced myself over the years that just I love the wind. So I get as far as I need to get. I don't know, Long Beach. I turn around, and sure enough, the wind's at my back, and it's just awesome. And as I'm riding, one thing I've noticed here in Southern California, at least Orange County, the cyclists are A, older, and B, there is a lot of fat and overweight cyclists, something I've never seen before. And I used to always say I was the fittest fat guy I know. And I got to tell you, if I was living in Southern California, I don't know if that's the case. There's a lot of heavy roly-poly cyclists, and some of them are really, really good too. So as I was making it on my way back, the one challenge I have is in my cleat. I bought a cleat off of Amazon, which, came out of China, which is the equivalent of, with not Alibaba, but Temu, right? So I put it on, it's a speed play. And I find that one that I put on, I only replaced one, to get my foot out of there. It's like so hard, and I feel I'm going to crash. Although at the end of getting to the end of the ride, I started to get a technique that would get it out. And I'm thinking, I saved 20 bucks. Is your life worth 20 bucks? And then I was thinking, 20 bucks is 20 bucks. So anyway, I figured that out. It's hard to get in and then it's hard to get out, but I think I've got the out. And so the wind was on my back, and the out and back didn't work. I had to continue on to get the 2 hours and 25 minutes. The highlight was that I did a 28.2 kilometer an hour, or 28.1 kilometer an hour bike ride. And it was probably faster because as I get out of Balboa Island, there's a lot of twists and turns, and it's slow, and you're behind cars and that sort of thing. Anyway, I may come across like I'm feeling really good, and I guess I am, but not really. This has been a grind. Has been a grind over and over. Just finished my Sunday long run. I'm going to tell you how it went in a minute. Before I do, just yesterday I was still amazed that I finished my bike ride at 193 average watts. Most of it was in the 200, and I averaged 28 kilometers an hour over 72K. Still blew my mind looking at all the other guys on Strava that I really respect, and my wattage was greater. So after I got home, immediately we had to do something. I look on chat. Yep, there's some lunar, thing of the horse, Chinese year or whatever. So we went to that. And there was had a hamburger, and we had to sit down in the grass. So I sat down. Man, I could hardly get up. Like, I paid the price. My legs were pretty darn sore. This morning when I woke up early, I had a long sleep. I got to tell you, I had a few beers yesterday, and then when we got home, I had 2 ice cream cones. No dinner, but that was my dinner, and I was gonked, man. That yesterday's run just killed me. So I was 3 hours of snoozing on the couch and then into bed. My app said I had about 10 hours worth of sleep. One of the apps, I've got a few of them, they conflict sometimes, but it said I had 6 hours of deep sleep, which is like insane. 6 hours, how could that be? Anyway, the other ones were like an hour and a half, whatever. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The only thing I remember in the dream, though, was someone was asking me about this guy. Oh, yeah, he's my best friend. And then I realized, I couldn't remember his name. And it turns out I think he was a sleep best friend, not someone I knew in real life. Anyway, to the run. So I got up, had something to eat. I wanted to carbo load up. It's an 80-minute run today. I signed up for a group with a bunch of people that, meet at this place. I wanted to see this different park, things like that. So I met them. Nice enough people. They're all around my age. And I was kind of envisioning that it was going to be a young group of people. And then when I got there, it was older. And then I'm thinking, well, I feel young. I think I look young, but I'm sure when I get there, they're probably like, hey, who's this old guy that showed up? I thought I was, I'm like the youngest looking one there. Everyone probably thinks that at our age. So I got on the run. It turned out there wasn't really a group that ran together. It was just they met. Hey, how's it going? And actually, I got a bit of a compliment. They didn't know they gave me one, but they said, oh, there's 2 groups that run here. You may want to come for the earlier group. We just finished up. We start at 7 o'clock. We do a 10-miler. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, well, they think I'm in great shape. So super. I said, no, I'm just here. Can do an 80-minute run, low heart rate. So I went, was on my own, did the run. While I was running, I was like, man, just loving life, the music playing in your ears. And it's just one of those moments you go, life, you just can't buy this stuff. And then the other thing is I'm running, I finally got through a neighborhood. Most of the stuff we've been seeing or running through other than down in the Newport Beach area, like Irvine's all been like apartments and condos. And I'm like, where are the houses here? So finally I start running and I see some houses and they're just beautiful. They're like not ostentatious, but they're my style. It's still a stretch to get into them. And I thought, man, if I was a young man again, I would be like aspirationally, I would be living in one of those houses for sure. Now I don't have those aspirations to live in nicer houses or anything. I'm content with what I have. So the heart rate, though, as I was running, running very slow. As I started running, the longer I ran, the lower the heart rate got, which is, I guess, a good sign. It's one of those things now that I realize it's been the last few runs I haven't had to walk. So I'm over that hump, I believe, where I'll ever have to walk again. but that's as long as I keep this up. And then I was thinking as I'm doing all this, I'm like, why am I doing this, man? Like, whose idea was it to try to get back into shape and do a 80-minute ride on a Sunday? Week 6 is in the record books. How do I feel? Well, here's the wins. This week, I was running without stopping. That's a major thing. Even though I was shuffling, I was running without stopping. Normally, I have to walk. Number 2 is on the bike. I finally have had some respectable bike rides. I've been, got up to 195 watts for a 2.5 hour bike ride, which is pretty incredible. So those are major wins. Third win, I finished week 6. I'm telling you, it's not getting any easier. Now, the things that, maybe the negatives mentally, man, this is hard. I'm having to push myself out the door every single time, even though there might be times I come back and I look pretty pumped up. It was hard slogging to getting out the door. The other thing is I'm sore. Physically, my legs are sore. It's not getting any easier, and that's one of the reasons I have to push myself out the door, is because I do have stiff legs and I've got to get that momentum. Mentally, I look at it as well and I'm like, why am I doing this? I had a comment from Simon. He said to me on Strava, he says, I see you're putting in some mileage. He's a guy he's my age, just a tremendous, he kept going, and his times are getting faster at 60 years old than what they were in his 40s, and he was quite good. Actually, we had a race once, and he beat me by 13 seconds on an Ironman, and we didn't start in the same wave, so it wasn't like we were running beside each other and he sprinted ahead. What are the odds that he's in one group, I'm in another group? We both finished 10 hours and something, and anyway, it was 13 seconds apart. But he's maintained, and his biking and everything's gotten better. So I look at it and I'm like, he gives me this compliment, it looks like you're putting in some good mileage. Are you feeling like an athlete again? And on one sense, yeah, I'm more like, I said to him, I said, it's coming down to, I'm calling it training now versus exercise. So I wouldn't say I feel like an athlete yet. Maybe when my runs start getting better and I go faster. And I still, need to get to the pool and do some weights. That's the only thing. And I think I need to adjust my schedule, because I do feel like I'm losing some muscle. And at 60, you need to really maintain muscle. Everything you read and they tell you is muscle is the most important thing. So I have to get back doing that. So I guess that would be a negative, that I haven't got that done. The other thing is these next 2 weeks, are going to be, I've got to muscle through them. And then, of course, at the end of the 8 weeks, I'm going to have to set another goal. And I don't know what that goal is. I guess I have 2 weeks to think about it. But it's been a tough week, no doubt. I think it's one of my tougher weeks. On the positive, I'm here having a tough time in Newport Beach, not having to be in Toronto with snow and riding an indoor trainer and running in cold. I understand it's like there's days there right now. It's unusually cold, about -20, -12, -20, where here it's 20 and sometimes 26, a little bit warmer than normal. So we'll see what week 7 brings. Cautiously optimistic. I'm glad Mondays are rest days.